Introduction to the Rise of Giant Merchants in the Republic of China. Chapter 1.2 Let's return to Shanghai. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The 16pu, the largest gateway in the Far East, is a bustling area that cannot be ignored on the map of Pudong. Yi Luo looked through the ferry window at the bustling and mixed with fish and dragons at the first wharf of Shanghai Beach not far away. Densely packed, shrewd dock workers wearing worn-out short shirts shouted their horns as they boarded the ship to unload containers and carry cargo. At the port, a strong man stood on several wooden crates with a high-pitched horn and shouted loudly, "Recruitment, recruitment, 10 big boys a day, free to eat, free to live." Listening to the noisy shouting, Yi Luo could vaguely see landmarks such as the Jinling Grand Theater, Far East Racecourse, and Shashuan Building, which were familiar to him in his memory, as he passed through the layers of people. The Shanghai Bund in 1928 was brilliant and magnificent. Western style, Shanghai style, high-rise buildings, 10-mile ocean fields, indulging in extravagance, under the brilliant neon lights, countless people work together to create a modeled and brilliant ukiyo-dari painting that belongs exclusively to this era and this city. "Hey, young student, have you seen me? I'll be on the dock soon. Don't mess with those people wearing suits and hats." With a gentle push on his arm, Yi Luo's thoughts instantly turned from his memory. The middle-aged man next to him, who was also wearing a suit and had a big belly, grinned. The man's name was Zhou Dafu, and he happened to meet a fellow villager from Shanghai on an ocean-going ship. He took good care of him along the way. Seeing that he didn't react, Zhou Dafu arched him with his hand again. "If you provoke them and get beaten up, don't blame uncle for not reminding you then. They are very powerful." Yi Luo lifted the upper edge of his suit and hat with his hand, revealing half of his young and handsome face, which immediately caused many beautiful Cheongsam ladies around to shout low. "Amazing, of course amazing. Those people are members of the labor union. Have you seen them? They all have the badge of the Shanghai East office pinned on their chests. The president of the labor union, Yi Yuqiao, knows how to fight. In Shanghai Beach, except for General Liu, foreigners from the concessions, the public board of directors, and the Ministry of Works, President Yi is like this." Zhou Dafu secretly extended his right hand and gave him a thumbs up, his face full of admiration and fear. "That's really impressive," Yi Luo smiled, seemingly indifferent. "Young student, don't take what uncle said to you for granted." Seeing the expression on his face, a hint of smile flashed in Zhou Dafu's eyes, and he began to teach seriously. "It seems that you have been studying abroad for many years, haven't you? It is indeed a good thing for young people to study more and have more experiences, but if you want to make a name for yourself in Shanghai, just having some education is not enough. No matter what job you do in Shanghai, you will never be able to get around President Ye's labor. Isn't employee recruitment managed by the General Affairs Department? The Labor Association is still responsible for this now." Yi Luo showed a hint of curiosity. "This is a bit different from 6 years ago. What's just recruitment? When looking for a job in Shanghai, do you really think it's the responsibility of the General Affairs Department? If you want to settle down and take root in Shanghai now, remember to register with the labor union first and pay respects to the mountain." Zhou Dafu gave him a white glance. "I'm from Shanghai and I'm going too, right?" Yi Luo became increasingly curious. "What's wrong with Shanghai people? Even if you're from Jinling, you have to register and pay at the labor union office first. This is the rule." "Yi Huichang, you really don't know." Zhou Dafu glanced around, approached him, and whispered, "Does the Dao gang know about the war? President Yi used to be the one from the Dao gang. In Shanghai, you can find anyone on the street, whether it's a rickshaw puller, dock worker, foreign company employee, or tea house lady, they are all related to the Dao gang." "Oh. Understood. It's a whitewashing act in society." Yi Luo's smile deepened. "I'm dying." "You really don't want to die, young graduate. Have you seen this? The labor union always sends wedding invitations. Zhou Dafu was so scared that he quickly covered his mouth and took out a golden red invitation from his pocket to pat on his face. Today is the big day for President Ye's daughter. I don't know how many people on this ferry are rushing back to Shanghai to attend this wedding banquet. You said so loudly, afraid they won't hear you, right? Oh, no wonder there are so many people on this ferry. So those suits and hats are coming to the dock to pick up people. Yi Luo looked at the approaching the 16 Pu. The number of suits and hats coming and going is increasing, which forms a sharp contrast with the dockworkers who are working hard nearby. Is Uncle also coming to pick up people? Of course there is, Uncle. I used to be one of the most prestigious people in Shanghai, otherwise how could ordinary people get a wedding invitation from the labor union? Zhou Dafu shook the invitation in his hand and tidied up his suit jacket with a proud expression. In a while, you can follow Uncle and also see Miss Ye's wedding, broaden your horizons. Uncle also made some friends in the Shanghai office. After attending the wedding ball, he will take you to pay respects to the mountain and take you to the ground. Thank you, Uncle. Yi Luo nodded with a smile. You're welcome, everyone comes back from outside. If we can help, we can definitely help a little. Zhou Dafu's smile became even more brilliant. Do. The long whistle floated to the 16 Pu with the river wind. The Yeyang Maru steamship from Nissan Steamship Company slowly sailed in, docked properly, and hundreds of suitcases returning from various places flocked down into this largest city in the Far East. Yi Luo picked up his suitcase and followed Zhou Dafu off the ferry. 6 years ago, when I left Shanghai to study in England and the United States, I was only 16 years old. Now that I have returned to my hometown, the scene before me is both familiar and unfamiliar. Seeing him curiously scrutinizing everything around him, Chow Tai-fuk remembered the same expression on his first return to Shanghai. Chow Tai-fuk smiled and remained silent, suppressing the desire to introduce himself. Let the beautiful scenery of the bustling Far East city naturally leave an indelible mark in the heart of this young student. Seeing several top hats from the labor union approaching, Yi Luo instinctively lowered the brim of his hat and stood behind Chow Tai-fuk. Uncle Zhou. A tall top hat glanced at them and then greeted them with a smile on his face. It's me, what do you call your brother? Zhou Dafu saw him walking and quickly embraced him with his fists. The tall top hat also clasped his fists and saluted, Hello Uncle Nong, my name is Shanghai, and Uncle Jiao sent me to pick him up. Ah, trouble. This is my nephew, who also went to Miss Ye's wedding together. Zhou Dafu pointed to him behind his back, hi, should we go over now? Well, Uncle, as you know, the Labor Association is currently very busy with things, and we have to be responsible for many people picking up and dropping off here. Shanghai deliberately made his voice linger, pretending to be in a difficult situation. I know. Zhou Dafu took out a bag of hadmen from his pocket and just boasted to Xiao Hosheng, unable to save face, he stuffed the cigarette into Shanghai's hand and glanced at several black sedans parked not far away. Jiao said he bought a car to pick them up. If Hai is really busy, we can drive over by ourselves, so we won't trouble you to deliver them. By the way, Jiao is still in good health. It's been many years since we last saw each other, miss him. Uncle Nong is too polite. Shanghai's eyes curved into a sharp angle, and he smiled as he tightly grasped the bag of hadmen and glanced at the nearby car dealership. Uncle Jiao is in good health, Uncle, don't worry. Uncle, as for this car, Uncle Jiao arranged a car to pick him up, but Uncle Nong saw that there were still a few foreigners to pick up today, but there was only one car. Nong also knew that foreigners have a very bad temper, and we were also difficult to deal with. How about Uncle, please work hard and take a yellow charter car first. Upon hearing this, Chow Tai-fuk felt a slight embarrassment on his face. He was about to refuse for the sake of his face, but the young student behind him was overjoyed. My nephew agreed, and it seemed that Shanghai was also unwilling to lend the car to him. Zhou Dafu had to nod with a dark face. After discussing, Yi Luo followed Zhou Dafu and a few others to the car dealership. Shanghai greeted a rickshaw driver and ran to pick up foreigners with a smile. Sitting on the yellow carriage, before he could even speak, Chow Tai-fuk, who was filled with anger, shouted, "Go to the Dahua Hotel." "Okay, boss." The two wheels of the yellow charter car flexibly turned in place, and the spokes of the wheels made a soft sound as they carried the two towards the central area of Shanghai East. "Damn it, little red guy, no big or small. I only know how to please foreigners in my mind. When I see Jiu." Zhou Dafu cursed in a low voice on the yellow carriage, feeling resentful. Yi Luo, however, was very interested in appreciating the surrounding scenery. The Dahua Hotel they are going to is located at the intersection of Iwenyi Road and Gordon Road, built by Spanish designer La Fuente himself. The hotel retains the original large lawn and garden of Maibian Garden, and the main building is a fake 4-story European classical building with a brick, wood, and stone mixed structure, supported by Ionian columns and equipped with large semi-circular arches, covering an area of about 2,000 square meters. Due to its grand and luxurious style, it soon became a frequent gathering place for Shanghai's dignitaries and social elites. The Dahua Dance Hall in the hotel is known as the largest dance hall in Shanghai, singing and dancing day and night, with endless music. Only the most powerful and influential officials in Shanghai can hold personal weddings here. Two bosses, today the Miss Yi from President Ye's family is holding a wedding at the Dahua Hotel. The labor union has closed the road, so we can only pull here. I understand and forgive you. The yellow charter car hissed and stopped at the intersection not far from the Dahua Hotel. Yi Luo looked up and saw a large area of black suits and hats walking back and forth at the entrance of the restaurant. Countless luxury cars were parked on Gordon Road, and the entire city's social elites seemed to be flocking here. After getting off the car, Yi Luo raised his hand and gave a piece of ocean to the rickshaw driver. His generous gesture startled Zhou Dafu beside him. The rickshaw driver walked away, and Chow Tai-fuk pulled him into the crowd, heading towards the entrance of the Dahua Hotel. There are too many people gathered at Dahua Hotel today, with ladies in suits, hats, and Cheongsam standing at the entrance of the hotel with smiling faces to welcome guests. Guests of different statuses are received by different hosts. The wedding invitations in the hands of Chow Tai-fuk are the lowest grade batch, and as long as their identities are verified, they can follow the crowd into the side hall and be seated. The highest class group, on the other hand, has a beautiful woman dressed in a beautiful qipao, paired with bright high heels, and twisting her delicate waist. A woman has a soft and charming appearance, with all kinds of charm. Just standing there, she attracts the attention of countless men. Yi Luo naturally glanced a few times, then was lightly patted on his arm by Zhou Dafu. Don't be blind, young student. That's Hua Mei from Fengming Tower. She's one of the 4 beauties under the big lady Shu Qiao from Fengming Tower. I don't know how many men are staring at her in Shanghai Beach. If you keep looking around, be careful not to get your eyes gouged out. Chow Tai-fuk had a very understanding expression of youthful vigor and admiration for beauties on his face. He went to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but Hua Mei is not a woman that anyone can find. Remember to be clever when you enter the restaurant later, watch less and speak less, eat more and drink more. On the beach of Shanghai, there are numerous heroes and fierce winds and clouds. If you don't have much ability, you have to be a person with your tail between your legs, otherwise it may easily lead to murder. I know, but it seems like she's looking at me. Yi Luo put down the suitcase in his hand, looking innocent. How could someone possibly? Chow Tai-fuk couldn't help but cry and laugh. Just as he cursed, he was swallowed back by the hurried footsteps of Hua Mei in her high heels. He really saw Hua Mei hurriedly pushing away the crowded crowd, twisting her waist and running towards them. That tender and tender gaze, with a hint of resentment, is really staring at the young student next to me. Young master, second young master, the soft and beautiful cry of Hua quickly spread among the crowd. Second young master. Did second young master come back? Hurry up and tell the president. Second young master is back. Hurry up, hurry up. The second young master is back home. Move aside, move aside. A wave of people spread out, covering up the lively wedding sound. Yi Luo smiled and felt good returning home. Turning his head, Zhou Dafu's expression of confusion was quite interesting. Second young master. Zhou Dafu felt his mind was a mess, and he could hardly speak clearly. Yeah, thank you for taking care of me all the way, uncle. Yi Luo nodded with a smile and took out a golden wedding invitation from his suit pocket. It read, Brother Yi Luo, I'm here. Little sister Yi Qingqing and brother Lao Lin Yuan sincerely invite us to a banquet. Today is my little sister's wedding gift, uncle, you must eat and drink well. Chapter 2. I want to do business. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The youngest son of Yi Yuqiao, the president of the Labor Association. The leader of the 4 Young Masters of Shanghai, famous on the Shanghai Bund. A genius who earned a house at the age of 10 with 100 yuan from his father. 6 years ago, he became the top scholar of the Republic of China by studying abroad for free in the United States and the United States as the top scholar of Tsinghua University. When he saw the name Yi Luo, countless entries about him popped out of Zhou Dafu's sticky head. Unexpectedly, the youngest and most legendary young master from Shanghai Beach returned on the same ship as himself, chatting and laughing all the way. Yi Luo turned his head and smiled as he said to Hua Mei, who was tightly holding onto his arm, Mayor, Uncle Zhou Dafu takes good care of me on the ship. I will arrange a seat for him when I have time, and make sure Uncle eats and drinks well. Yes, second young master, don't worry, Meyer must have arranged everything for Uncle properly. Hua Mei hugged his arm, her plump chest gently squeezed, and her smile was like a flower. Uncle, I'll go first. Remember to eat and drink well, Yi Luochong said with a faint smile as Zhou Dafu, who was still stunned, grabbed Hua Mei's waist and walked towards the hotel lobby. Second young master, you have lost a lot of weight. Are you not used to eating with foreigners? Hua Mei leaned against him like a bird, and when celebrities from all walks of life saw them, they all gave way. Some even clenched their fists and shouted, second young master, with a smile. Yi Luo bowed back one by one, gently pinching Hua Mei's waist with his hand, and whispered, Mayor has been talking nonsense again. I have gained a lot of pounds in the past 6 years, but when I see my dad later, he won't recognize me anymore. By the way, has my family been okay these past few years, and is Shanghai Beach still peaceful? Young master, of course the Yi family is doing well. In recent years, with the support of General Liu, President Yi has grown bigger and bigger. Who wouldn't know that President Yi is like this among the Chinese? Hua Mei raised her thumb and gently caressed Yi Luo's palm, then pursed her lips and snorted, but Allah's small Fengming tower is unbearable. Big sister has to be busy dealing with those stinky men every day. Today, Miss Qingqing is having a big day, and even big sister is sick and can't come. So. Then I'll go to Fengming Tower to see her later. Yi Luo slowed down and nodded slightly. Alright. If I knew the second young master would come to visit, the eldest sister would definitely be overjoyed. Maybe this illness will be cured in just one fell swoop, Hua Mei chuckled. By the way, Yi Luo also smiled, and then his expression gradually became serious. Who dares to harass Fengming Tower? Hua Mei secretly glanced around and leaned her little head towards Yi Luo's shoulder, biting her ear and whispering, who else can there be? Those 3 old scoundrels from Yongxing Company, especially Lu Yusheng, who is an old rascal, pesters Miss Hu Dai and Wan Lingyu while constantly coming to Fengming Tower to trouble big sister. I hate it so much. Second young master, when he comes back this time, he must help big sister stand out. Okay, it's all on me. Yi Luo regained his smile and didn't seem to care about these small things. The two of them walked towards the center of the hall, and as they were about to see Yi Yuqiao and others, he lowered his voice and finally asked, Mayor, has my dad and General Liu been very close in recent years? Well, it's very close. Hua Mei nodded hard and then looked at him with confusion. Who wouldn't know that General Liu is the leader in Shanghai Beach now? Many people are trying to get along with General Liu with their heads squeezed. Does second young master think it's not good for President Yi and General Liu to get too close? Yi Luo pulled out the arm tightly held by Hua Mei, with a smile on his lips and a calm gaze. He turned his head to look at her. Hua Mei was startled by his suddenly sharp gaze and immediately realized something. She licked her smiling face and wrapped it around his arm, shaking it up. Second young master Meyer knows I'm wrong next time, I won't ask too many questions. Please spare Meyer this time second young master, why bother? Allo, why haven't we seen each other for 6 years and bully the beautiful girl from Fengming Tower as soon as she comes back? A strong voice interrupted the conversation between Yi Luo and Hua Mei. In the center of the hall came a tall and sturdy young man, dressed in a stylish suit and with the badge of the director of the Shanghai East office pinned to his chest. However, there were several scars of varying depths on his face, and he looked more like the big brother at the entrance of a certain gang. Seeing him walking, Yi Luo reached out and rubbed Hua Mei's head, then walked over with a smile and hugged the young man with force. Big brother. I haven't seen you for 6 years, but you still have the same charm. Hey, it's been 6 years without realizing it. You stinky kid, you're taller than me. He is Yi Luo's biological brother, Yi Hao, the eldest son of the Yi family who currently serves as the director of the Shanghai East office of the Shanghai Labor Federation. It was also the first person Yi Luo saw when he traveled to this world. Blood and flesh are dear, brotherly affection is deep. Tears welled up in the corner of Yi Hao's eyes. In this era, the communication industry was not well developed. 6 years ago, after Yi Luo left Shanghai, they could only occasionally communicate on overseas phone calls and exchange recent developments through letters. After 6 years of separation, Yi Hao's younger brother, who still had a hint of youthful and delicate charm in his memory, now looks much taller than him. He seems to have completely transformed from a weak scholar into a young and talented person, which has left him deeply moved. The two brothers walked inward with their shoulders clasped together. Before Yi Luo could speak, Yi Hao bombarded him with a bunch of questions. Feeling the strong family affection conveyed in her brother's words, Yi Luo's nose also felt a little sour. He was only 6 years old when he was the second child of the Yi family, and then lived with this large family for a full 10 years. He has already developed a deep affection for his parents, siblings, and other family members, and he cherishes everything now. You shouldn't go out this time when you come back, right? Yi Hao asked anxiously, you know how much my dad opposed you going to study abroad in the UK and the US. Well, I won't go out. Besides attending my little sister's wedding, I have also made plans for long-term development in Shanghai when I come back. Yi Luo nodded heavily. That's good, that's good. If you sneak out of town again, my dad won't know how long he'll be nagging in my ear. In the past 6 years, I've been getting a big head out of it. Yi Hao patted his back hard and was satisfied with the answer. This time, why don't you go to the Shanghai East office to help Big Brother? You've been smarter than me and Qingqing since you were young. You know, how can I understand those messy documents in the office? Big Brother, Oh, by the way, there's one more thing. Yi Hao seemed to think of something, patted his head, brushed his shoulder, and whispered, in the future, try to avoid kissing me with the women from Fengming Tower. It's not good for your fiancé AE to see it. Fiancé AE, mine. Yi Luo stared at him with wide eyes. How could I just leave for 6 years and have an extra fiancé AE for no reason? That's right. I've already arranged it for you. Minister Bai's biological sister, Miss Bai Xiuzhu. Xiuzhu will turn 18 after her birthday this year, and Minister Bai and I unanimously agree that you should get married on her birthday. It's a perfect time for a double celebration. Bai Xiuzhu. Yi Luo was stunned for a moment, and a little girl with double ponytails tied in her mind came to mind, constantly following behind her and shouting, Yi Luo brother, endlessly. He gave a bitter smile and guessed that his dad would definitely arrange a marriage for him when he returned this time, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. Dad, Xiuzhu and I haven't seen each other for 6 years. What's wrong with not seeing each other for 6 years? If we haven't seen each other for 6 years, we can't start dating. If we hadn't seen each other for 6 years, I wouldn't be your father, but you would be my father. Yi Yuqiao snorted a few times, stood with his hands down, and his face quickly pulled down. Dad! Yi Luo couldn't help but laugh and cry. Yo, don't dare to pretend or not. If I run to the foreigners without saying a word, I don't have the qualifications to be your Yi Erxiao's father. You're more like my father. How about I shout to you a few times? Yi Yuqiao became more and more enthusiastic as he spoke, and a group of celebrities around him smiled and looked over, but dared not speak. Oh my, Lao Yi. Luo has just returned. What's so weird about you? In the past 6 years, you have been to Luo's room the most times in your family. Now that we meet, you have a stern face. Who is this for? A beautiful woman wearing a beautiful qipao and well-maintained walked up with high heels, shouting and talking, while a group of people around her shouted, Mrs. Yi. She is Li Shuzhen, the original wife of Yi Yuqiao, and also the biological mother of the Yi Luo brothers. All right, you are the one who talks the most nonsense. Yi Yuqiao was exposed and his face turned red. He hurriedly interrupted Li Shuzhen's words and walked towards the banquet hall inside. You two, come here together. Yes, Dad. Yi Luo and his wife exchanged a glance, understood the smiles in their respective eyes, and quickly followed them. Old Yi, if you dare to scold your son again, see if I don't work hard with you. Li Shuzhen muttered in a low voice. She really wanted to have a good conversation with her youngest son whom she hadn't seen in 6 years, but knew they had a topic between men, so she had to put down a harsh word and run to entertain other guests. Li Shuzhen is from Sichuan and Chongqing. She met and fell in love with Yi Yuqiao from a young age. She was the wife of Chao Fun, who had experienced life and death with him. Her spicy taste never changed, so she dared to tear down Yi Yuqiao's platform in public. A kind mother is so defeated. If it weren't for your mother's favor, how dare you run there without saying a word? What kind of Buddha is that? Yi Yuqiao walked ahead with his hands behind his back. Dad, I received my undergraduate degree in political economy from Cambridge and my graduate degree in MBA business school from Harvard, Yi Luo said with a smile. Not long after arriving in this world, he had already made plans to study abroad and develop his network. Since 1872, the first batch of government-funded overseas students were admitted, and every few years thereafter, the Tsinghua School in Beiping would recruit overseas students from all over the country to study in England and the United States. Since 1920, studying abroad has become a popular trend throughout the country, with impoverished children using it to leap up social classes and aristocratic children using it to develop social networks. During this period, many students who returned from studying abroad later became world-renowned figures heavily recorded in history. However, in the eyes of most wealthy families, studying abroad is purely an unhealthy trend and not worth advocating. Yi Yuqiao, who came from a rough background, valued his fists and power more. He believed that Yi Luo's stay abroad was purely driven by a rebellious heart and he wanted to go out and play haunted, so he always held an opposing attitude. I don't care what kind of Buddha or sword you have. When you come back this time, just stay obediently in Shanghai, marry Shizhu first, and then go to the Shanghai East office to help your brother. After you gain some qualifications, you will be transferred to General Lu's army. Do you hear that? Yi Yuqiao greeted the other big shots with a smile and reminded Yi Luo, there are also women from Fengming Tower. I don't care how many aunties you plan to marry in the future. During this time, let me have a good relationship with Shizhu. If you dare to hang out there, be careful of your legs. Poochie. Yi Hao beside couldn't help but laugh out loud. The reputation of his younger brother Shanghai Sishao comes partly from his genius-like mind and abilities, and partly from the famous brothels, tea houses, and dance halls on the Shanghai Bund. It's no different from breaking his leg if he doesn't listen to music and drink, as a charming young man. Laugh, you're laughing nonsense. You're the same. Qingqing got married today, and Alo and Shizhu are also getting married this year. You big brother, you still hang around in the gang hall all day, and you still have a smile on your face. Isn't your face ugly? Yi Yuqiao turned around and glared at his eldest son, then lowered his head wisely and looked at his younger son. All right, I know now, Dad. I will obediently follow suit and go dating Shizhu whenever I have time. Yi Luo nodded like pecking at rice. What else? I won't go to Fengming Tower to hang out anymore. What else? Whenever you have time, go help me with my affairs. Well, I haven't read books for free these past few years. Yi Yuqiao nodded contentedly. After 6 years of absence, his youngest son became tall and handsome, fair and pure, and his temper was also much more introverted. It seems that studying abroad is not without, but Dad, this time I'm back, I don't plan to transfer to General Lu's army. Yi Luo looked up at the huge calendar hanging on the wall. On the front was a super large poster, which prominently featured the most famous movie actress of the past, who died. Looking for the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com, a row of small characters could be vaguely seen, on March 20, 1928, the 17th year of the Republic of China. At this moment, the northern expedition initiated by the Jing government is in full swing, but most supporters of the Beiyang government do not believe that the war will end quickly. Moreover, Zhang Deshuai, the current leader of the Beiyang government, is still alive, and the possibility of changing the Great King flag at the city head is extremely low. General Lu Yongxiang, the warlord of Anhui province who had been stationed in Shanghai for many years, belonged to the Fengtian clique and was also one of the main supporters of the Beiyang government. At this time, his military strength was strong and his influence was immense. Countless people in Shanghai wanted to join him. Yi Luo knew the true intention of his father's actions, but he had no intention of getting involved in these things. Because in the next less than a month, the northern expedition will suddenly undergo significant changes, and their optimistic situation will also take a sharp turn for the worse. Soon, the Jing government will defeat the Beiyang government and achieve true unification. At that time, if one had a Fengshe label on oneself, it would become very troublesome in the future. What are you talking about? If you don't go to General Lu's place, what do you want? Do you know how many people in Shanghai want to enter General Lu's house now? Yi Yuqiao's face turned black. In recent years, he has been sitting beside Lu Yongxiang, with the aim of allowing his intelligent young son to smoothly infiltrate his Anhui army and establish some achievements. It's good now. This kid first went abroad for 6 years, and now he says he doesn't want to become an official in the Anhui army. He wants to hear what this kid really wants. Yi Yuqiao glanced at him sideways and waited for the answer. Dad, I want to start my own company and do business, Yi Luo said indifferently as he looked at him. In an instant, the air in the entire banquet hall seemed to quiet down. Chapter 3. Rise of Giant Merchants. You are listening at novelfull.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 4. Car rental industry and Fengming building. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A wedding banquet, with both guests and guests enjoying themselves. In the afternoon, there was also a social ball specially arranged by Yi Yuqiao, and those celebrities from all walks of life who came from afar naturally wanted to take this opportunity to get close to a group of local tycoons on Shanghai beach. Young people like Yi Hao have their own social circle, and after having lunch, they go for fun. Li Shuzhen wanted to have a good conversation with her youngest son whom she hadn't seen in 6 years. Unfortunately, she was the mistress of the Yi family, and her daughter got married. She had too many busy things to do, so she could only find Yi Luo in her spare time. She held her youngest son's hand and said a few words with a runny nose and tears, then took out her checkbook from her purse and let Yi Luo spend freely. She found another opportunity to chat well in the evening. Luo Luo, your father is getting old. Don't pay attention to him. Mom will advise him well at night. If you want to do business, Mom will definitely support you. Also, on Shuzhu's side, you can talk if you want. Don't you like it, Allah, just go find the little girl on your own, don't bother. Well, thank you, Mom. Yi Luo took the checkbook and felt quite moved in his heart. Li Shuzhen is notorious for spoiling her son. To outsiders, she is considered a very unqualified parent, but as her child, she feels very happy. If she said that, she would definitely go and persuade Yi Yuqiao. This is also good, reducing some of the family barriers to starting a business. With this thought in mind, Yi Luo hummed a tune and nodded in response to those shouting, "Second young master," to greet him, while quickly leaving the Dahua Hotel. The afternoon social ball attracted a large number of celebrities, and there were already many men and women dressed in glamorous clothes at the entrance of the restaurant. In the 1920s, the Li Cha Hotel was a unique dance venue in Shanghai, with a super-large dance hall that could accommodate hundreds of people. The decoration and accompaniment bands were all top-notch, but unfortunately, the Li Cha Hotel was usually only open to foreigners, and few Chinese people were invited to attend the dance there. The second-tier hotels are Dahua, Carlton, EP1-10, Moon Palace, etc. Among them, Dahua Hotel is the most famous and expensive. At present, only 3 songs can be performed for 1 yuan at Dahua Hotel, and you also need to pay 50 cents for tea. At this time, the monthly salary of an ordinary maid is only 2,200 yuan, which is only enough to spend once at Dahua Hotel. Those who can dance these days belong to the upper class. Not to mention a reserved restaurant like Yi Yuqiao, holding their own social ball. However, this situation will soon change. Starting from the second half of 1928, with the control of the Jinling nationalist government and the gradual prosperity of coastal areas, social dance gradually began to become popular among the public, and numerous dance halls emerged in major cities. After the rise of civilian dance halls, the cost of dancing for everyone became less expensive. At that time, there will also be a large number of Chinese dancers, and the monthly income of red dancers in large dance halls can reach up to $300, comparable to university professors. Feeling moved by these upcoming changes, Yi Luo walked to the entrance of the hotel and happened to see Hua Mei preparing to take a yellow charter bus back to Fengming Tower. Hua Mei supported the yellow cloth canopy in one hand and a small bag in the other. Before she could even cross her feet and sit on the yellow bag, her slender waist was gently embraced by someone. Where did Little Red come from? Hua Mei's beautiful eyes widened as she thought about which little red guy who didn't have long eyes dared to tease her here. When she turned around, she saw Yi Luo, who was smiling and moaning, and the vulgar words that surged out of her throat immediately turned into a charming shout. "Second young master, why did you come? Is it going back to Fengming Tower? I'll drop you off on the way." Yi Luo picked her up from the side of the yellow carriage and said to the yellow carriage driver with a smile, "She's not sitting anymore. You can go." "Hey, master, take your time." The skinny rickshaw puller lost a big deal, looking bitter, but didn't dare to say much. After apologizing, he pulled the rickshaw and continued to look for other customers. "Thank you, second young master, Hua Mei hugged his arm and smiled. The two of them arrived at a black Ford car, which was owned by Yi Hao. The driver was usually responsible for picking up and dropping off Yi Hao from work. Today, it temporarily belonged to Yi Luo and was used as a means of transportation for him. Hua Mei smiled and sat in the passenger seat, looking around with a curious expression. Even though she has read countless people and often wanders in the upper-class social circle, she has never ridden such a luxurious car that is usually only available to foreigners and top celebrities. At this time, there are not many vehicles on the street. In general, the steering wheel on the left is imported from the United States, such as Ford and Chevrolet. On the right side of the steering wheel are imported Citroën and Renault from France. Even in 1931, 3 years later, the number of cars on Shanghai beach remained low. At that time, the brands and quantities of registered sedans in the French concession were Citroën for 24, Renault 235, Peugeot 79, Talbot 21, D'Ambuton 20, Delahaye 8, Samson 6, and Bugatti 4. The best-selling imported car among all is Ford from the United States, with the most popular Ford the Fifth 8 priced at $5,000 among the wealthy. At this point, literary giants like Zhou Shuren have a writing fee of about 5 yuan per 1,000 words, and if they want to buy a Ford the Fifth 8, they need to write 1 million words. This is just buying a car, not including the more headache-inducing maintenance costs in the future. Yi Luo skillfully drove the car while observing various special landscapes of this era. The sense of era that comes from paving the way gives him a sense of living reality. Pedestrians and rickshaw pullers on the street will instinctively avoid luxury cars. If they come across them and scrape them off, they will be a rare commodity that cannot be compensated for in 10 lifetimes. This is exactly the opposite of the situation in later generations where vehicles are afraid of scratching pedestrians and are cautious in various ways of avoidance. Very interesting. Alas, if she could ride in the car of the second young master every day, Meyer would be very happy even if she died soon. Hua Mei smiled beside her, looked at the passers-by through the window, and saw the envious eyes they cast. Finally, she understood why many little sisters in Fengming Tower had to rush their heads to be wives of rich businessmen and officials. Let me see. In less than half a year, Mayor, you can rent a car and wander around Shanghai beach by yourself. Yi Luo looked at the scenery around him and smiled, saying, in recent years, the tram tracks in Shanghai's Tancheng have become longer and longer. Trams are fashionable and cheap, and many students and literati have started to choose to travel by tram. Like the yellow chartered coachman just now, their mainstream customers are only young ladies and gentlemen like you. Times are advancing, technology is developing, and the popularization of automotive applications is not too far away. Oh, what kind of young lady is Mayor? Hua Mei pursed her lips and chuckled lightly. Second young master is deceiving others again. This kind of car is so expensive, how many people in Shanghai can afford it? Hua Mei doesn't believe that high-end cars will become a means of transportation for many people. Looking at it now, of course, I think it's impossible. But Yi Luo knew that as the northern expedition ended and the country entered a relatively stable period of development, 1927.1937 was hailed as the golden decade by later generations, and the domestic economy would develop rapidly. As the largest city in the Far East and currently the most prosperous, Shanghai Bun's economic development speed will be even more terrifying. The days that followed were almost the same day by day. Although buying and maintaining a car is still something that only top-level individuals can do, the middle class and some vain young ladies and gentlemen can already use their spare money to rent a car and showcase their status. The car rental industry quietly emerged and flourished at this stage. Yi Luo took Hua Mei back to Fengming Tower and went to see Six Xiao Aging, with the other purpose of launching his first project, invest in the development of the car rental industry. Mayor, how much does it cost to take a yellow charter bus now? Yi Luo turned the steering wheel and asked. I'm so angry about that, second young master. Hua Mei pouted, took out foundation make-up, looked in the mirror, mended her makeup, and complained, since the car shop was bought by Uliqui, those rickshaw drivers have kept increasing their prices. Now they start at 10 cents, and they have to add 10 cents for every half mile. If you go from Dahua Hotel to Fengming Tower, you will have to pay 80 cents. Yi Luo remembers 6 years ago, when the rickshaw driver deducted the money he paid to the car dealership, he earned 80 cents a day for good business. Now, his income is likely to more than double. But with such unrestrained high prices, it's no wonder more and more people are inclined to take electric cars, abandoning the old era of rickshaws. He said this idea, Hua Mei closed the foundation make-up box, and his mouth curled. How can I make money? My cousin pulls a car in the Fiat dealership. He said he would be grateful if he could earn 50 cents a day. Uliqui, a vampire, went to the bookstore www.zhaoshuyuan.com to set his money high. When it comes to the current car dealership king, Uliqui in Shanghai, Hua Mei's voice couldn't help but lower and secretly went to see Yi Luo's face. Uliqui was once the famous Tanko elder brother of the Dao gang, and one of the earliest young brothers to follow Yi Yuqiao to Shanghai Beach. After the establishment of the Labor Association, he left and, with the help of Yi Yuqiao, acquired many rickshaw companies. After more than a decade of operation, he has become the most famous king of car companies today. But since last year, he has been involved with the 3 tycoons of Yongxing Company, and his relationship with the labor union has become increasingly strained. The membership fees paid by the car dealership to the labor union have also been decreasing year by year. Yi Yuqiao and Uliqui are already on the brink of rupture. Hua Mei was quick-witted for a moment, and after speaking, she regretted it, worried that Yi Luo might think she was deliberately playing tricks on right and wrong. Yi Luo didn't care about this at all, just squinted slightly, pondering about things related to Uliqui. This guy is a well-known 25-year-old. In the original history, after Lu Yongxiang went out of power, Yi Yuqiao lost his support because there were too many people who had offended before, and he began to be gradually backlash. In the spring of 1931, Yi Yuqiao had to leave Shanghai with his family. In order to avoid pursuit, he changed his children's faces and did not see each other, in order to seek safety. Unfortunately, he was ultimately assassinated by Uliqui himself. The generation of heroes has come to an end. Yi Luo happens to plan to start accumulating primitive capital from the taxi industry. Taxi will be the biggest competitor of yellow charter cars in the future and will definitely face Uliqui head-on. Then just tidy him up by the way. With this thought in mind, the car turned around and arrived at the largest brothel and tea house in Shanghai Beach today. Xu Qiao, known as the Big Sister in the martial arts world, managed the first building to become bigger, Fengming Tower. Chapter 5. Big Sister, Little Jing, feeding medicine mouth to mouth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fengming Tower is located in the Nanjing Road area of the British Concession, on Nanjing East Road in the later Bund. Not far away is the Sassoon Building, which was built by British Jewish man Elias Sassoon and is still under construction. Fengming Building covers an area of over 20,000 square meters and adopts traditional Chinese architectural style. It was designed by renowned architectural designer Wang Jixiao himself. Wang Jixiao served as the chief architect of the China Pavilion at the 1893 Columbus World Expo in Chicago, USA, and was a leader in the architectural industry during the Republican era. Thinking of the scene 10 years ago when he was only 12 years old and stormed into Wang Jixiao's office with a snake-skin bag of silver coins, asking him to help design the Fengming Tower, Yi Luo's mouth couldn't help but slightly curl up. That's right. In Yi Luo's well-known story of $100 earn a building, that building is the Fengming Building in front of us. 10 years ago, at the age of only 12, Yi Luo recognized the beauty of her eyes and spent a lot of money to buy this remote land in the British Concession, which was not favored by anyone. She also invited Master Wang Jixiao to design the blueprint for Fengming Tower. In less than half a year, Fengming Tower was completed, becoming the first Chinese-owned tea house in the British concession. 6 years ago, at the age of 16, Yi Luoyuan went to England and the United States to study, leaving Xiao Ajing alone to operate Fengming Tower. At that time, Fengming Tower was still losing money for years, and no one was optimistic that it would soar to the sky. 6 years later, I didn't expect Fengming Tower to be the most famous brothel in Shanghai Beach. The girl who used to have a hint of childishness and purity on her face also transformed into a well-known elder sister in Shanghai Beach. Later, it became known to everyone that before Yi Luo left, he gave Xiao Ajing a detailed business guide that he had compiled. After 10 years of dormancy, Fengming Tower finally became a major landmark in the British concession according to his expectations. The car turned into the parking lot, and Hua Mei got off the car. She immediately ran to open the car door for Yi Luo, then took his arm and walked towards the bustling Fengming building. "Hello, Sister Meyer." "Hello, Sister Hua Mei." "Hello, second young master." The male and female employees of Fengming building, who came and went, made way and respectfully welcomed the real boss into the building. "Be careful of the stairs, second young master." Hua Mei led the way with a smile and led Yi Luo all the way to the outside of Xiao Ajing's room on the second floor. Standing at the door was a beautiful woman in a white qipao, tall and cold-looking. She is Xueleng, one of the most capable, four beauties of wind, flower, snow, and moon under Xiao Ajing's command. As the name suggests, one is unparalleled in coldness and beauty. Seeing Yi Luo, there was a faint expression on her snowy and frosty cheeks. She bowed slightly and shouted, "Second young master. Second young master, why are you here? Have you had dinner? Do you want Ruer to make some small dim sum for you?" Then came a petite and lovely girl. She was Fengru, one of the four beauties, wearing a blue cheongsam, with 2 big balls tied on her head, cute and funny. Xiao Ajing's medicine. Yi Luo glanced at the porcelain bowl held by Fengru. Just fried, the doctor said that big sister should drink it while it's hot to have an effect. Fengru nodded, and a hint of helplessness appeared on her cute little face. But big sister finds it bitter and always doesn't take her medicine well. "Alright, let me do it. Leng'er stays outside, you two can go and get busy." Yi Luo took the porcelain bowl, and the strong smell of traditional Chinese medicine hit his nose. The dead memory began to attack him. Traditional Chinese medicine is so bitter. "Yes, second young master." Hua Mei and Fengru didn't want to touch Xiao Ajing's mold when she was sick, so they got a permit and went downstairs with a smile. Xueleng turned around and knocked on the door. "Sister, second young master has come back to see you." "Not seen. Not seen. Not seen." A sweet and delicate voice faintly came from the inner room. "Since you don't want to see me, big sister, then I'll leave." Yi Luo didn't get angry either, turned around and took steps, pretending to leave. Hearing footsteps outside, there was a loud bang coming from inside. Then came the woman's low moans and groans. Yi Luo pursed his lips, smiled at Xueleng, and pushed the door in. "It hurts me so much. Sigh, 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 why did you come in?" On the bed, Xiao Ajing, wearing only a silk underskirt, rubbed her forehead with a light red mark and stared at him with beautiful eyes wide open. She was still feverish, her seductive cheeks flushed like a big apple, adding a touch of cuteness to her previous allure. Xiao Aqiao and De Yelua, who are already 26 years old this year and 4 years old, are the most familiar with feminine charm. They also have many beautiful halos on their heads, such as the first beauty of Fengming Tower, the only female eunuch of Shanghai Beach, and the eldest sister. In the vast Shanghai Beach, countless men want to marry her and become a concubine. A while ago, there were even wealthy people who came to propose marriage to her as their legitimate wife. For countless women who make a living in Shanghai Beach, Xiao Ajing is their most admired idol. These messy men were naturally rejected by Xiao Ajing. But she is also anxious. In this era of the Republic of China, she was already the old girl among the old girls. If it were any other woman, children would be able to make soy sauce. Counting the beautiful women of the Republic of China era, it is probably only she who has survived until the 26th without getting married. The man who caused her to become in such an awkward state was the handsome and extraordinary young man in front of her, holding a porcelain bowl. Yi Luo looked at Xiao Ajing's almost overflowing sense of resentment and smiled as he walked to the bedside and sat down. Before she could put down her buttocks, she gently twisted her waist a few times. Yo, the famous, for young masters, at the top of Shanghai Beach, how could the second young master of the Yi family have the leisure time to come and see me, this little woman? Xiao Ajing reached out to take the cigarette box placed by the bed, and her soft little hand was only halfway out when Yi Luo grabbed it. After finishing the medicine, I'll draw. Yi Luo brought a porcelain bowl to her, scooped up a spoonful of traditional Chinese medicine, blew it, and thoughtfully served it to her mouth. I don't want it, it's hard. Xiao Ajing shook her head like a tambourine. So, is it still painful like this? Yi Luo put the traditional Chinese medicine into his mouth, then pressed it against him, mouth to mouth, and it crossed into Xiao Ajing's mouth. Xiao Ajing stared at him with big eyes, her head suddenly dizzy, as if she had crashed, unable to react to anything. She obediently opened her mouth, spat out her tongue, took medicine, swallowed it, and mechanically repeated these movements. Unconsciously, Yi Luo finished feeding a bowl of medicine. Only when she woke up did she realize how bold Yi Luo had made. Even during the relatively open period of the Republic of China, Yi Luo's behavior was enough to shock the world. She has never seen such a flirting style before. You both got on my underskirt. I hate it so much. Xiao Ajing blushed and lowered her head, with a few medicine stains on her chest. The underskirt was a piece of clothing worn under a qipao, similar to a pajama in silk, and was a close-fitting garment that was difficult to clean. She reached out and pulled a tissue to wipe the corners of Yi Luo's mouth before going to get a cigarette. Ba-da-da, with a flick of the kerosene lighter, the flames lit up. Xiao Ajing first lit a cigarette for Yi Luo, then rolled up a slender cigarette holder and lit one for herself. The smoke is curling up, and the atmosphere is just right. During the Republic of China era, women, especially those engaged in the entertainment industry, were addicted to smoking, with some having a greater addiction than men. They think smoking is a fashionable behavior that can particularly showcase their feminine charm. After the two finished smoking a cigarette, Xiao Ajing, who was feeling dizzy, snuggled up in Yi Luo's arms, her forehead resting on his chest, and her fingers gently looped her hair in several circles. You're coming back this time, won't you go out again? I'm not going out anymore. I'm planning to start my own investment company and do business, Yi Luo whispered, hugging her. Investing in a company. Xiao Ajing looked at him with confusion. This noun has not yet appeared, so Yi Luo briefly explained it. So, I'm also one of your investments, right? Xiao Ajing looked up at him with a smile hidden in her eyes. She was very smart and understood quickly. The only thing I don't understand is why he, who has returned from studying abroad with a high education and a background in the Yi family, chose to do business. The current Shanghai Bund may seem peaceful, but in reality, there is a surge of undercurrents, especially in the commercial sector. Foreign companies run by foreigners are almost monopolized, and on the Chinese side, Chinese merchants face difficulties. They are exploited by warlords and local gangs, and compete with various competitors, finally making a small profit. Various inexplicable taxes will come to them and squeeze you dry. She started her own brothel business, and Fengming Tower was taken over by her when she was 16 years old. 6 years ago, at the age of 20, she came to complete power. She knew more than anyone how difficult it had been along the way. If he is short of money, there is no need to do business on his own without trying to please him. Xiao Ai blinked her eyes and waited for the answer. The expression on her face was the same as that of the big guys at the wedding banquet. The only difference was that no matter what Yi Luo wanted to do, as his woman, she would support her with all her strength and follow her without brains. You can also say that talent investment is also a direction of investment. Yi Luo lit another cigarette and took a deep breath. I came here today to talk to you about doing business. Well, you've agreed, I'm listening. Xiao Ajing knew he wasn't a man who couldn't understand his charm. Since he came over at this time, it meant that things were very important. I am planning to register a new company at the Ministry of Works tomorrow. I heard that Chinese people who want to establish properties in the British concession now must obtain permission from the British consulate. On the consulate side, could you please help me arrange my itinerary? Yi Luo threw the cigarette ash into a red and white iron box. Also, I need you to help me schedule 2 people. One is named Zhou Xiangsheng, who should be running a small company called Xiangsheng Automobile Company, and the other is named Alfred Sloan, a foreigner from the United States. He should have arrived in Shanghai by now, but I'm not sure where he is. Okay, I remember. Xiao Ajing used to learn English with Yi Luo before, and later took the time to read and self-study. Most outsiders only thought she was a sociable female thug, but they didn't know that she even had more ink in her belly than many college students. Zhou Xiangsheng became a famous taxi king in Shanghai and a well-known Zhejiang merchant during the Republic of China period. Zhaoshuyuan.com Alfred Sloan is even more powerful. He became the president of General Motors in May 1923, following Mr. DuPont. When he joined General Motors, the company was in a serious economic crisis. But during his decades leading General Motors not only surpassed Ford Motor Company to become the world's largest automobile manufacturer, but also became an important symbol of the American economy. The Chevrolet 490, which is about to enter the domestic market, made his first comeback. What Yelua needs to do is to first buy Xiangsheng Auto Dealership next week, and then become the sole distributor of Chevrolet 490 in Shanghai Beach through it. After some communication, Xiao Ajing understood a general idea. In short, this little boss named Zhou Xiangsheng and the foreign devils named Alfred Sloan are both having a difficult time now, but her man is optimistic about them and plans to pay them first to do business. Don't worry, it's all on me. Xiao Ajing lay in Yi Luo's arms, her voice sticky. After listening to so much, she didn't know if it was due to fatigue or medicine. She felt a bit tired and yawned repeatedly. Yi Luo pinched her face, still slightly hot, thinking of not disturbing her recovery and rest anymore, and prepared to get up and say goodbye. Noticing Yi Luo's movements, Xiao Ajing, who was half asleep and half awake, suddenly woke up and grabbed his clothes. Her eyes looked at him affectionately as if water was about to flow out, saying, "Second young master, take a nap here. You're burning so badly, I'm afraid I'll mess you up." Yi Luo nodded at her nose, feeling a bit helpless. "I'm not afraid." Xiao Ajing pouted and struggled to get up, her seductive eyes like silk, her beautiful eyes fixed on him without letting go. "I just like you messing around with me." Chapter 6. What does he know about doing business? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Be good, rest well. When you recover, I'll spend a few days alone with you. Yi Luo picked up Xiao Ajing's hot body and stuffed it back into the blanket. That's a promise. I want you to accompany me to play table tennis, ride horses, and watch movies. Xiao Ajing snuggled up in his arms, yawning incessantly, probably because the medicine had taken effect. As she spoke, she fell into a deep sleep. Listening to Xiao Ajing's faint breathing, Yi Luo gently helped her cover the blanket, and finally lit a cigarette, carefully examining her while smoking. A smoke ring is exhaled, slowly rising, gradually becoming larger, and then dissipating. 10 years ago, when he was only 12 years old, he accidentally fell in love with 16-year-old Xiao Ao in a group of refugees at the 16 Pu. At that time, she was still a yellow-haired girl who fled from the north and sneaked into Shanghai, hungry and without food or clothing to cover her body. "Master, my name is Shu Qiao and I can read Chinese characters. As long as I give you a bite to eat, do laundry, cook, and wipe the floor, I am willing to do anything." Among a large number of refugees who had illegally immigrated, Xiao Ajing had clear speech, clear thinking, and a tall figure, instantly standing out. It wasn't until she washed her body and briefly described her own experiences that Yi Luo realized that she had only spent 10 yuan to buy the Fengming Shanghai bund in the future, helping the three tycoons establish a foothold and creating the eldest sister of the largest gang of young people in Shanghai, Xiao Ajing. If it weren't for Yi Luo, Xiao Ajing would have become the legitimate wife of the top three tycoons, Hua Tianhong. Then, when Hua Tianhong wanted to take Shanghai famous actress Lu Lanchun as his concubine, he resolutely chose to divorce and ran the Qin gang alone. After this incident, Yi Luo also realized that his actions after crossing the river could produce a certain butterfly effect. However, the historical trend is like a rolling torrent, and there will be no deviation due to the change of one or two people. What Yi Luo can do is to protect the people around him as well as possible, accumulate enough capital, and deal with major wars in a few years. He wants to be a giant businessman in the Republic of China, not only on the wealthy side, with a large amount of capital, but also renowned worldwide and reaching the pinnacle of the business world. He wants to become a true world business tycoon. Instead of the so-called tycoons on the Shanghai bund who think they can only sit in a corner and act on the faces of foreigners and warlords, having nothing but money but no personality as wealthy individuals. This goal was quietly set in his heart at the beginning of his journey. During his 6 years of studying abroad in the UK and the US, Yi Luo did not idle and had been secretly developing his network and accumulating initial capital. Everyone thinks that the second young master of the Yi family has returned from studying abroad and is preparing to start a new life. In fact, his new life had quietly begun as early as 6 years ago. A complete set of plans for creating a commercial empire lay very clearly in his mind. Reaching out and gently touching Xiao Ajing's forehead, feeling the heat dissipate, Yi Luo stood up with peace of mind, carefully exiting the room and bringing the door. Xueleng, who was waiting at the door, gave him a slight blessing and said, "Second young master, please take your time. Well, when Xiao Ajing wakes up, tell her I'll come see her again tomorrow." Yi Luo nodded and walked downstairs. "Yes, second young master," Xueleng replied. Yi Luo walked to the first floor, and Hua Mei, who was in charge of collecting guests, immediately welcomed him. "Second young master, are you leaving? How about Mei calling out a few younger sisters to accompany you for a cup of tea?" "No need, I have something else to do later." Yi Luo shook his head and hugged Hua Mei's slender waist, saying as he walked out, "Mayor, tonight I'll ask someone to send me a copy of the Fengming Tower's account book for the past 6 years. Mayor knows, take your time, second young master." Hua Mei escorted him all the way to the car before reluctantly shaking the paper fan and saying goodbye. The Hua Hotel, Dance Hall. Lu Yusheng hugged a short RB dancer and circled around the center of the dance floor to the music. He handles everything from top to bottom, without any hesitation, exuding the style of an old thug. Nowadays, civilian dance halls are not yet popular, and only a few top-notch hotels have dance halls as supporting facilities. The dancers inside are mostly foreigners, especially RB people. Most of these RB women are wandering from RB China to big cities like Shanghai to make money, and many even meet celebrities through these large-scale social dances and secretly become lovers of the wealthy and powerful. Most of the other men on the dance floor also hugged foreign dancers, doing many indescribable things under the flickering lights. "Third, I heard you were teased by that little red guy from the Yi family this afternoon." Zhang Wanlin, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, and a burly figure, also hugged an RB dancer and slid his stiff dance steps towards Lu Yusheng. "Humph, there's always a chance to find it back." Lu Yusheng reached out and pinched the dancer's waist fiercely, and when he mentioned Yi Luo, his face couldn't help but darken. The rise of giants. Little Red Boy really thought business was so easy to do. He wants to do business. Huh, then all a Yongxing company can't take good care of him, Yi Ershao. Zhang Wanlin grinned. He was a gang thug in the early years, specializing in illegal transactions such as lending high-interest loans, using knives to cut off people, and forcing good people into prostitution. He is responsible for handling the shady business and small actions of Yongxing Company. Don't worry, let's wait for the big brother to come back and make a decision. Lu Yusheng shook his head. The three brothers each have their own personalities. The big brother Hua Tianhong has a deep understanding of the city and ruthless methods, the second brother Zhang Wanlin has enough courage and a dark heart, and the third brother has a good business mind and a wide network. The three of them complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they work together, which is why they have established such a great reputation in the vast Shanghai beach. The three brothers have been doing well in business and the underground world in recent years, and Lu Yusheng doesn't think that just a yellow-haired boy can cause much trouble. Pinch an ant, there's no need to be impatient. And this kind of thing is usually decided by Hua Tianhong in the end, and he is not good or bad by the rules. Now Hua Tianhong has taken people to Jinling, preparing to establish a relationship with the Jinling national government, which is the most important thing. Anyway, third brother, you have the smartest mind. I'll listen to you. Whatever you want to do with that little red guy, just say it, I'll do it all. Zhang Wanlin chuckled. He loves doing this kind of thing the most. Compared to being deceitful in the business world, he prefers to use his knife and directly kill him, simple and rough. Second brother, when you go back, send a telegram to your elder brother and find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Tell him that Hu Dai and Wanling Yu are there, and I will handle it as soon as possible to reassure him. Lu Yusheng nodded. That's right, now it's rumored that Lu Yusheng has fallen in love with the former famous actress Hu Dai who came to Shanghai to live in seclusion and the flourishing Wanling Yu. In fact, the one who truly admires them is Hua Tianhong. However, Hua Tianhong's family has a fierce wife. Even the actor Lu Lanchun, whom he promoted a few years ago, dare not marry into the house as his aunt and can only be raised as an extramarital lover in a large theater outside. I know, I understand, Zhang Wanlin assured by patting his chest. Oh, doing business. I really want to see what kind of business Sayakilo can do. I don't believe that besides big cigarettes and foreign goods, what other business can make money in Shanghai now? Lu Yusheng chuckled inwardly. What he was thinking was not simply retaliating against Yeluo. This kind of young person who doesn't know the height and thickness of the earth must be praised the highest, and then watch him fall the most miserably, that's interesting. Their three brothers are more optimistic about the fierce northern expedition in Jinling. If the Jinling warlords can win, then things will change. At that time, the Zhejiang governor Lu Yongxiang, who controlled the Shanghai Bund, would inevitably be electrified and taken down. Without the biggest support. The labor union, which is at its peak, can also make a move. Lu Yusheng's abacus was pounding wildly in his heart. As Zhang Wanlin was about to hug the dancer and turn to another place, he lowered his voice and finally said, Second brother, you can talk to Yu Likui later and ask the people below to inquire about what business Little Crimson really wants to do. Okay, it's a small matter, Zhang Wanlin's voice gradually faded away. Seeing Yi Yuqiao, who was also holding the dancer, slowly approaching, Lu Yusheng changed his smile and turned around attentively, President Yi. Nong's dance is becoming more and more graceful. Chapter 7. The Pursuit of Fathers and Sons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After 6 years, I returned to Shanghai Beach. Yi Luo wandered around, driving around the British concession first. On November 29, 1845, the British side signed the Shanghai Land Charter with Shanghai Road, establishing the first concession in modern China. The British concession. The British concession was delineated to the west of the Huangpu River, north of Yangjingbang, now Yan'an East Road, south of Lijiachang, now Bijie East Road, and east of Jielu, now Hunan Middle Road. Later, it expanded to reach Suzhou River in the north and Nichenbang, now XZ Middle Road, in the west. Later, the American concession was established, and in September 1863, the British and American concessions merged to become the public concession. In later times, the Bund area now belongs to the British concession, also known as the Central District of the Public Concession, and is the most prosperous area on the Shanghai Bund. Looking around, various Western-style buildings emerge one after another. Landmark buildings such as the Jinling Grand Theatre and the Far East Racecourse are extremely eye-catching, overcrowded every day, and business is booming. However, in the past 6 years, there has not been much change in Shanghai's commerce. Since Liu Yongxiang led his army to settle here, there have been few people who can afford to do business, and everyone is moving towards various gray industries, without much exploration. Yelua, who was familiar with the history of later generations, drove through various areas of the British concession at this time and could even shout out the amazing industries that would develop in those areas in the future. From now on, this will be Shanghai New World, this will be Shanghai Great World, and over there will be Longhu Company. Oh, this should be the new headquarters of Shanghai Comprehensive Savings Bank in the future. Chen Guangfu is worried about how to expand his banking business now. Yelua murmured to himself while admiring the scenery. These are all wealth codes that only he knows himself. In later generations, Sun Jingyi, CEO of SoftBank Technology, was the first to invest in Alibaba, hailed as the greatest venture capital of the 21st century. Now, Yi Luo will replicate the genius-like behavior of Sun Jingyi's investment in Alibaba countless times, becoming the most famous venture capitalist of the 1920s and 1930s. Thinking of the terrifying profits that these venture capitalists could generate for themselves in the future, Yi Luo smiled heartily. This is his greatest confidence. This is the reason why we should be calm and stable. After settling the British concession, Yi Luo will continue to advance towards Shanghai County, and finally encircle the difficult French concession, gradually eroding it. What was the most important thing during the Republic of China era? It's a gun, it's power. But ultimately, it's still money. Those merchants who were oppressed by warlords and foreigners couldn't lift their heads. Why? Because there isn't enough money yet. If the money in one's pocket is inexhaustible, every move can determine the life and death of an industry, the livelihoods of countless people. Just like some famous literati nowadays, warlords who want to impress them also have to consider the consequences. Moreover, as long as there is enough money, the military reserves will not be far away. That is the true giant. What a huge businessman. This kid is coming back with sincerity to cause trouble for me. After socializing, Yi Yuqiao, who had just sat down at the Yi mansion, was so angry that he slapped the table. The maid Xiaoli, who came over to bring tea, was startled and obediently stood by the desk, afraid to say a word. Roar, roar. As soon as you get home, you know how to roar. Old Yi, don't you want your liver? Li Shuzhen, dressed in a red slim-fitting qipao, walked into the study with a round fan and her eyes widened, gesturing for Xiaoli to give her the tea cup. After seeing Xiaoli bring her door and go out, Li Shuzhen walked to the desk with tea in her hand and said softly, "What's wrong? Who has touched your mold again? Who else can there be? That bastard Liu Yusheng." Yi Yuqiao picked up his tea and took a sip before putting it heavily back on his desk. That little red guy from the book is not well-intentioned and talks nonsense everywhere. Now that things are settled, the whole Shanghai beach knows what investment company the second person is going to open as a means of livelihood. Ah, what's wrong with that? If they want to talk, just let them talk. The president of the Tang Tang Labor Association, you're afraid of others talking nonsense. Li Shuzhen reached out to help Yi Yuqiao hammer his back and began to pinch his shoulder. Luo Luo is so smart, he can definitely do anything. Don't you trust him? I'm not worried about my second son, Yi Yuqiao sighed slightly as he pinched his teacup. Who in the family doesn't know that my second son is the most worry-free? I'm afraid he might think too much about it, General Lu. Well. That's great. Later, I'll invite General Lu's aunties to play mahjong and then pack a few boxes of pastries for them. Speaking of Lu Yongxiang, Li Shuzhen didn't dare to fool him casually. Why don't we pack 50,000 yuan first? 50,000. A little less. Yi Yuqiao frowned. That's good for 88,000 yuan. The numbers are more auspicious, and they'll be happier too. Li Shuzhen pursed her lips and smiled, so you agree to Luo doing business. I didn't say I didn't agree again. Yi Yuqiao, blushed and drank tea to hide his embarrassment. I was afraid that I would agree too quickly. The second child would easily have his tail stuck up in the sky. He would think I was behind his back when doing anything in the future. Look at the boss and Qingqing, what have you become accustomed to? They spend a whole day without proper work, fighting and killing in the gang. One says they want to pursue free love and must marry a married man. I will be angry with them sooner or later. All right, drink tea to calm the fire. Anyway, Nong agreed. Li Shuzhen smiled happily. When he comes back, I will tell him. Don't let the wind out of your mouth first. Yi Yuqiao glared at his wife. I know, I'll ask the servant to help you make something to eat. I'll handle the pastry. General Lu likes those aunties a lot now. With a breeze blowing by the pillow, everything can be easily done. Li Shuzhen twisted her waist and shook her fan as she left. She just walked out of the study when she met Yi Luo, who was coming towards her. Mom, you're going out to play mahjong so late. Yi Luo took out his checkbook and returned it to her. Take the money with you, remember to count me in when you win. I know, you're the best. Every time you lose money, you can't see anyone. Li Shuzhen tiptoed up and fondly pinched his face. Lolo, your dad has taken care of it. Before leaving, Li Shuzhen blinked at Yi Luo. Yi Luo was stunned for a moment, then woke up and walked towards the study with a smile. Pushing the door open and entering, Yi Yuqiao was sitting at his desk, reading a newspaper under a green banker's desk lamp. When Yi Luo saw the distinctive green lampshade, he felt a strong sense of age rushing towards him. Emerald desk lamp, the official English name for this desk lamp, was invented by Czechoslovakian designer Harrison McFandy, who also specially applied for a patent for this grandmother green lampshade. It is said that many foreign bankers like to use it to light up and study at night, so after it was introduced to China, it was called the banker's desk lamp. Nowadays, almost every tycoon's home must have several banker's desk lamps to showcase their personal taste and style. Dad, I'm back. Yi Luo pushed away the chair in front of Yi Yuqiao and sat down. Well, what did you do in the afternoon? Yi Yuqiao closed the newspaper, took out the precious Biluakun, and brewed a cup for him as well. I went to the Jinling Grand Theater to listen to the music, Yi Luo answered truthfully, taking a sip of Biluakun. The taste of the top-quality tea was good. In recent years, the terrain of Shifeng Mountain is steep and can only be transported by human labor. In addition, the production volume is very small, so Biluakun is considered an expensive luxury item, and only a few wealthy and aristocrats can taste its delicacy. The top-quality Biluakun collected by Yi Yuqiao has a market price fluctuating around 600 yuan per kilogram, making it a luxury item among luxury goods. With just one sip, I drank a few yuan. And those rickshaw pullers, after working hard all day, only earned 50 or 60 cents. Don't go in the future. If you run into people from the Bai family, it won't be good in the end. Yi Yuqiao said so, but in fact, he doesn't really think much of the Bai family in his heart. Bai Xiongqi is the Minister of Finance, but he is well known and has no authority. The current fiscal power is completely in the hands of Lu Yongxiang, who is a puppet on the table. Yi Yuqiao hoped that Yi Luo's legitimate wife would come from a wealthy family, and once again, she would have to be the daughter of the legitimate wife of a powerful official, in order to be considered a perfect match. Unfortunately, our family has risen from the grass and does not have a prominent social background. Whether it is the top aristocratic families or the families of powerful officials in the Beiyang government, they do not have much regard for his Yi family. In addition, Bai Xiongqi had put in a lot of effort during his early years, and the two families had already booked a marriage. Bai Xiongqi is now even more determined to use the power of the Yi family to board General Lu's ship and further advance in politics. This marriage is not easy to quit, and it's not that bad. We can only do it for now. Yi Yuqiao's tone now is completely different from during the day. Yi Luo is not foolish either. He had already sensed this from his mother's words. Dad's excitement during the day was nothing more than because there were many people at Dehua Hotel, and Bai Xiongqi wanted to give him enough face. If his true thoughts were found out by the Bai family, the two families would be very embarrassed. Yi Luo himself had no intention of rejecting this marriage at all. One reason was that he had been childhood sweethearts with Bai Shizhu, and he also knew how much this girl would love her when she grew up. She really fell in love with her and didn't want to let anyone else know. One reason is that he also knew that Bai Xiongqi would continue to climb in the future, so he sought the position of deputy mayor by relying on the national government of Jinling at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. In his early years in Beiping, Bai Xiongqi was promoted to the position of Prime Minister Jin Quan, but later failed in the struggle and was transferred to Shanghai. If he had not met Yi Yuqiao before, he would have returned to Beiping again and waited for the opportunity to move. At that time, Bai Shizhu would become childhood sweethearts with Prince Jin Yanxi of the Jin family. But after meeting Yi Yuqiao, with the support of both parties, Bai Xiongqi stayed at Shanghai Beach. Among them, there was actually a little help from Yi Luo, but neither of them knew about it. Now my dad looks down on them. It's estimated that in a few months, they won't look up to their Yi family anymore. If you really don't like Shizhu, just push it off. Yi Yuqiao no longer hesitated as the father and son talked alone. I'll handle it myself, it's not important. Yi Luo took a sip of tea. Dad, I want to talk about doing business. What kind of business do you do? I don't agree. Tomorrow, you go to the Shanghai East office to work for me. Yi Yuqiao patted the table, blew his beard, and stared. What? This seems different from the agreed script. Yi Luo looked down at him and then smiled inwardly. The old man is playing hard to get. Dad, it's impossible to go to work. I won't go to work in my lifetime, Yi Luo said, crossing his legs leisurely. What kind of business do you do when you're not at work? Eat your family's savings. Yi Yuqiao couldn't understand his joke. I don't understand anything else, so I can only do some small business to sustain my life like this, Yi Luo continued, trembling his legs. Pop. Yi Yuqiao patted the table again and said, can you tell me what kind of business you plan to do and why? Chapter 8. I don't think this business can be done. You are listening at novelfull.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 9. Dare you sleep with me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 10. Old friends and fans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yelua's beautiful dream was interrupted by a piercing sound from home. He yawned, rubbed his eyes, and saw the clock hanging on the opposite wall reading 10:25. Last night, after chatting with Yi Yuqiao, Yi Luo carefully reviewed the accounts of Fengming Tower over the past 6 years. It's not that he's worried about Xiao Ajing and the others falsifying their accounts, but he wants to see who frequently comes to Fengming building for consumption. The main group of people who have contributed greatly to Fengming Tower in recent years are wealthy businessmen from various regions. Some live in Shanghai for a long time, while others occasionally come to Shanghai to play. Generally, there are fixed mistresses in Fengming Tower. After 6 years of accumulation, Fengming Building's net profit reached 360,000 yuan, but 120,000 yuan was used to manage various relationships, and the remaining 240,000 yuan was deposited into Citibank because Citibank has the highest annual interest rate and can generate interest of 3,120 yuan per year for current accounts. After checking the accounts, Yi Luo stayed up late again to write the company's preliminary planning application and self-recommendation letter. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning when they were all scheduled. After sending the application and self-recommendation letter to Fengming Building, he slept until now. Second young master, you're up now. Xiaoli is here to serve you in changing clothes. The maid Xiaoli heard the commotion inside the room and immediately knocked on the door with a water basin. Why is it so noisy outside? Yi Luo wiped his face with a wet towel, watching Xiaoli serve him carefully, and sighed inwardly about the luxurious life of the wealthy during the Republic of China era, how enjoyable it was. Yi Yuqiao assigned him 6 maids to manage clothing, food, housing, and transportation, as well as to handle excrement and physiological needs. However, he was worried that Yi Luo would not be comfortable living there, so he also assigned his most capable maid, Xiaoli, to him. The butler said that big sister came to see second young master with a foreigner, and now they are waiting in the living room to have tea. Xiaoli helped him quickly dress, and when she mentioned the foreigner, she lowered her head and didn't dare to say much. Xiao Ajing and foreigners. Yi Luo looked puzzled. Didn't Xiao Ajing go to the Ministry of Works to request approval? Do foreigners from the Ministry of Works still need to come for on-site inspections when starting a new company now? Yes, it's your old acquaintance. Xiaoli finally helped him straighten his collar, observed in the mirror many times, and only let go after confirming that it was clean and tidy. Yi Luo became even more puzzled and didn't care about washing up. He asked Xiaoli to quickly take him to the living room to take a look. Xiao Ajing and Sir George sat in the living room drinking tea. The old butler didn't dare to neglect foreigners, but he didn't understand foreign language and could only stand and stare. Fortunately, Xiao Ajing can speak fluently. She estimated that Yi Luo had just woken up and was worried that Sir George would become impatient, so she kept picking topics and chatting with him in English. The two were chatting about some interesting stories from Shanghai when Yi Luo arrived late. Yi. It's really you. When you were in Cambridge, you didn't tell me you were the second young master of the Yi family. Sir George got up excitedly and hugged Yelua like a bear. John, long time no see. I didn't expect to meet you here either. Yelua was quite surprised. This Englishman's name was John George, his roommate and classmate while studying economics in Cambridge. Because Yelua often goes out to socialize and attend various dances, George is responsible for helping him deal with the teacher's roll call. When reading, George greatly admired Yelua's talent and social qualities. A guy who doesn't study at school actually ranks in the top 3 every year. Although he is studying economics, he is also well known in science and engineering. Many professors even ask Yi Luo to transfer his major to their name and specialize in science and engineering. It can only be said that true academic achievers are popular everywhere. How did you come to Shanghai? Yi Luo only knew that John George's family had a considerable influence in Cambridge, London, England, and the two did not have a deep family relationship. It's a long story. After graduation, I was planning to travel around the world, but I didn't expect my grandfather Sir Jordan to suddenly pass away. My family cleared up a consulate position in China, and I was sent over. John George had a bitter expression on his face. He was not interested in diplomacy and politics, but had a special fondness for economics and sociology. This time, he came here purely to drive ducks to the market. I just arrived in Shanghai last month and was invited to serve as a director of the Ministry of Works. Sigh, I don't understand these things at all. This British guy is actually a consul at the consulate, a director of the Ministry of Works. Xiao Ajing's English is pretty good, but Yi Luo's conversation speed is too fast. She didn't hear many things clearly, but she understood this identity and title. Sir George is still Sir Jordan's grandson. Sir Jordan, that would be famous. That is the second British ambassador to China. In simple terms, he was once the second in command of the British in China. Second only to the ambassador to China. Even the consuls general of major cities are only his subordinates. In 1920, Sir Jordan returned to England by ferry from Shanghai and retired with honor. At that time, Xiao Ao was 18 years old, and she saw the sea of people composed of all the powerful people on the beach at the 16 Pu for the first time. Those are all Chinese people vying to bid farewell to Sir Jordan. Yelua felt relieved in his heart that he didn't know John George was the grandson of Sir Jordan. When the two were at the University of Cambridge, they mainly discussed academic topics and rarely exchanged family backgrounds. This is also a major criterion for Yi Luo's travels overseas. Nowadays, the status of Chinese people in the world is very low, and many foreigners look down on them. If you always talk about family background and social relationships with others, they both look down on you and are not willing to talk about it. Being sincere with others is actually a powerful tool for making friends. The two of Yi Luo had a great conversation, and Xiao Ajing played the role of a maid with great wisdom, serving tea and pouring water, completely lacking the aura of big sister when she was outside. Knowing that her old butler and Xiaoli's eyes were fixed. If Xiao Ajing's virtuous wife and mother were to be seen by outsiders, it would make people crazy. Quickly, they talked about what happened at the Ministry of Works this morning. "John, thank you for helping my woman out," Yelua said, glancing at Xiao Ajing sitting quietly with her legs closed. When she heard these words, she pouted with a look of grievance and felt sweet in her heart. "This is something every gentleman would do, don't be polite," George smiled and waved his hand. "Is this investment company what you want to do yourself?" "Yes, you know, I've always been interested in investing," Yi Luo nodded. The concept of investment was proposed as early as the Cambridge era, and he even did a research project specifically, but unfortunately it didn't attract much attention. After all, this thing is still a bit beyond the times. Entrusting money to strangers for management is risky and the situation is not clear. From the perspective of the businessman's personality, the larger the plate, the more they prefer to pursue stable returns. Venture capital is too risky, and in a conservative era, it will definitely be seen as a biased move. But in fact, venture capital is a very profound knowledge, especially in the era of big data, where risk is reduced but returns are higher than any business. By the 21st century, angel financing has spread to various parts of the world, with countless giants rising up and each investment creating billionaires. In fact, I'm more interested in your application. Remember, in 1926, we had a topic about the real estate foam in Florida, and our tutor criticized us for a long time. George laughed heartily. At that time, no one believed that the real estate foam would burst. Indeed, during that time, my mentor felt a headache as soon as he saw us holding information to look for him. Yi Luo also smiled. During his 6 years of study, he had learned a lot. In his past life, he couldn't enter such a top prestigious school. Now that he has traveled back to the Republic of China era, he has to go and see whatever he says. This is the obsession of a former small-town SWAT. I have already harshly criticized the employees of the Ministry of Works for investing in the company, and the approval was given to them to handle it this afternoon. Yi, are you free now? I want to take you to meet someone. George rubbed his hands, looking excited and hopeful. Who? Yi Luo asked curiously. I'll know when I get over there. Don't worry, it won't delay your business. George stood up and pulled him as he walked out. Okay, I'll take you to the Licha restaurant for lunch. Yi Luo turned to look at Xiao Ajing. You can handle the matter with the Ministry of Works this afternoon. By the way, don't forget to help me inquire about those two people. I know, they won't delay your important matters, second young master. Xiao Ajing pursed her lips and smiled as she stood up to bid farewell. Approaching the door, Xiao Ajing stopped him again. Yi Luo stopped and turned around to look. Xiao Ajing walked slowly with a slender waist, reaching out on tiptoe to help him tidy up the collar of his suit again. Only then did he let go with satisfaction. You've been wronged. Yi Luo reached out and gently pinched her face. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Xiao Ajing originally had a suppressed resentment in her heart, but upon hearing him say so, it immediately dissipated. For the past 10 years, he has promised his promise and never reneged on it. Yi, that young lady really likes you. George and he got into the car together, and mentioned that when they were at the Ministry of Works, Xiao Ajing personally picked up the self-recommendation letter and application letter from the dirty trash can, and went to the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com to carefully smooth it out. Sometimes I envy you, and wherever I go, there is no shortage of beautiful women's favor. I also like her very much. Yi Luo sat in the passenger seat, lit a cigarette and replied lightly. By the way, what kind of business are you planning to do? I'm planning to buy some cars from General Motors in the United States to rent a car. Yi Luo didn't hide this idea. Even if he stands on the rooftop of Fengming building shouting with a loudspeaker now, no one would think it's possible. George was also surprised and said, Yi. General Motors is said to be going bankrupt. And the ability of Shanghai consumer automobile is not that strong, right? Indeed, the ability to consume luxury cars is limited to the upper class. But what I want to buy this time is not a luxury car, Yi Luo replied with a smile. General Motors is completely suppressed by Ford in the United States, and it is said that they cannot make ends meet, but this is the best opportunity for us to invest, isn't it? There is an ancient Chinese saying, better to add flowers than to give charcoal in the snow, which means that when someone gives a helping hand in a critical moment, they will be grateful to you for a lifetime. Now, both General Motors and Zhou Xiangsheng are at their lowest point in their careers, which is not the best time to invest. I don't understand business, so I can only wish you success. George showed no interest in such things, but the person I'll see later is very interested in these things. Yelua was even more curious about who George was taking him to see. George's car is a Ford T-shaped convertible that was just discontinued in 1928 and is quite trendy on the streets of Shanghai Beach. The car bumped all the way over some famous buildings to the west of Garden Bridge of Shanghai. Now, Yelua finally understands where they are going. Shanghai 10 British Concession, British Consulate General in Shanghai, Building 1.